All right, guys, welcome back to another crazy talk. Today, I'm your host, Miguel. This is fantastic teacher Vivian Morimoto. We're going to be talking about student screening, right? What are students that we screen from the process of choosing which students we're going to be working with, right? So let's start off with the first question, which is defining what is an uncoachable student, right? So first question is, how do you define an uncoachable student? Vivian, how would you define a student that's uncoachable?
All right. First of all, thanks for having me, Miguel, once again. It's always a pleasure.
So
Um, so yeah, how to define an uncoachable student? I thought about that and I realized that I'm a really lucky person because I think I've only had like a really bad situation. There are, of course, some students that are harder to teach than others. Um, like in everywhere you go, right? There's always this tough person that you have to handle. But I think, like, I was talking to another teacher the other day, and he said that there is this really hard student that he has been working with, that he doesn't accept feedback. So I think that's a really hard one, right? What do you think about that?
I think that is actually one of the main red flags, maybe the biggest red flag for a student,
Hmm.
because there are things that we can control as teachers, like what methodology we're going to use, what content we're going to put inside of the methodology or the activities that students need to do in order to develop their skills. We can raise their awareness in terms of like what they need to do, what their difficulties are, and how to solve them based on the experience that we have with other students that have gone through the same thing. But there are some things that only the students can do,
Yeah.
and accepting feedback, like you can't shove feedback down a student's throat or put it
Yeah.
into their minds. They need to be able to think about the feedback that the teacher is giving them, and given that the feedback offers practical steps to improve, actually do the practical steps. And that's where the teacher can't control. Like, if the student doesn't accept the feedback, he's not going to apply the practical steps. And
Yeah.
consequently, like, he's not going to improve. So that makes the relationship extremely difficult, because the responsibility of us as teachers is, in fact, to raise the student's awareness and give him tools to improve, get
Hmm.
to his goals. So if the student doesn't accept these things, it actually makes him probably the definition of an uncoachable student, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Um, and what do you think about students who, oh my God, I just had a senior moment here. Like students who, so they don't accept feedback, and others who, students who don't do their homework. What do you think about that?
Well, in that case, I don't actually look at it as an uncoachable student at all. I think that adults who, I guess, live a regular working life, they have challenges. So I would differentiate an uncoachable to a challenged student. So
Hmm.
there are different reasons why students won't do their exercises. And I've had students who don't do their exercises because they don't like doing exercises. And even though they know that they can improve with specific exercises, so they opt out of that, and they would like to continue classes in conversation or loose music classes, but things in a light kind of tone. But it's an open conversation where I tell them, that you can improve if you do this exercise. And they say, I know, but it's just such a block. It's something that I need to deal with in therapy. Or other students like, well, I know, but I'm really prioritizing other things right now, so I'm really not giving a lot of emphasis on that. They're normally
Okay.
students who have like other really demanding realities in their life, like they're studying medicine or they're, doing some course that really demands a lot of energy from them.
Yeah.
And they already have a good level of English that they just kind of want to keep and improve, but they don't have the energy to go that extra mile. In their case, it's an extra mile to
Mm-hmm.
do the exercises that they kind of dread for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I feel that those cases are cases with challenges. Like
Right.
the student
Not.
has a time challenge or an
Uh-huh.
organizational challenge or an energy challenge. Like, what are they going to do in their
Mhm.
routine? How are they going to approach that difficulty emotionally and mentally so that they can actually start doing it? That's
Right.
something that is really challenging. So they might even have the goodwill to change and to continue to do at least what they can do, you know, and they're aware of the things that they should do, but they know that they are opting for what they are doing, in fact, So I
Yeah.
feel that as long as that's understood, expectations will be met.
Mm-hmm.
Like they won't have big expectations of making a lot of progress. You know, they will know the amount of progress that they've already made doing what they're already doing. So they'll
Yeah.
have that. And if they're satisfied with that, they, don't want to do anything more. Um, and we've done our job in communicating what more they could do, we're good. You know, I feel
I think
that's
I
what
have maybe like nowadays maybe like 3 or 4 students only who do their homework. And
it's
but yeah,
rare.
because yeah, most of them are grown-ups, adults. So yeah, they don't really have time for that, and they don't really have the patience to do homework anymore, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I feel like there is a level where homework um, is sometimes not exactly necessary because of the habits they've
For
developed.
sure. Yeah.
Like I have some students that are advanced and they all have the habit of reading
Mhm.
English books of different topics from different writers and like about I don't know, concentration, focus, deep work, finances, economics, business, and things like that.
Mhm.
So just that habit of doing that every day already does have an amazing impact on the way that they structure their sentences, the way that they talk, the vocabulary that they acquire. So they
Yeah.
already have healthy skills outside of class where I don't need to give them more homework
Right.
because they already have a lot
Mhm.
of good habits. And reading is just one
Yeah.
of them. Reading is just one of them. Other things that a lot of students do is they have a social circle that they interact with constantly in English. They have friends who
Mhm.
live abroad. They work with other people internationally, so they are constantly speaking English apart
Mhm.
from reading. So these are things that really level up your English, especially if you're an active learner. You're doing things actively and consciously. You're
Mhm.
going to observe what you're doing. You're going to think about what you've done or what you did, and you're going to constantly improve if you're an active speaker, an active learner. So students who have active habits also
Yeah.
are some of the types that you'll see them improve from class to class, sometimes even though they neglect their homework, which is a very rare but a very interesting case of the only
Mhm.
type of student that I feel doesn't necessarily need
Yeah.
homework, like exercises outside of class.
I feel the same. Uh, especially like but I ask usually I ask my so speaking of level, I usually emphasize a little more on the like on working on something other than just a lesson. I talk to my elementary level students a lot about that because I feel like from my experience, when they do something that I'm not telling them, explaining to them when they're like working on their own, I feel like they learn a little faster. So and usually that's what they want. They want to learn fast. They want to start speaking already, and then I always say, well, if we only have one class a week, because usually I only teach group classes, so they only have one or two classes a week.
Mhm.
And I say, if you guys only have one lesson a week, uh, I mean, if you're patient enough, I'm not in a rush. But if you want to learn faster, you have to do something, at least once a week, and until it becomes a habit. And
Absolutely.
that's something that it's hard, to make it become a habit, to make English become part of your life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that has become a pressing issue for me when it comes to what am I offering my students to counter the difficulties that they face in that area of developing good habits and practice. Because it is a fact that the more you practice any skill, you're gonna get better at it
Yeah.
if you're, I guess, active in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I included in my offers to students has been a bi-monthly, like every month, I'll have two walk and talks, which is just we go to Parque Ibirapuera, we walk 5 kilometers, and we talk. We can have conversations, theme-based conversations. So I'm going to select a theme every week, every
Mm-hmm.
walk and talk, and I'll create leveled cards. White cards for beginners, yellow cards for elementaries and intermediates, like B1 and B2 level, and red cards for the C1, C2 level of the same question, but in different levels, asked in different
Wow.
levels. So
And
then,
those cards sound so fun, like if you have like, oh, I want to get to the red card, let's say the student probably has that in his mind, right?
absolutely, like they'll notice the small differences between the cards, and it's up to them, how
Mm-hmm.
who they want to practice to as well. Because the walk and talk, I give every participant a bracelet, so a colored bracelet, color coded. The
Mm-hmm.
white bracelets are for the A1, A2s, right? So the beginners.
Uh-huh.
The yellow color bracelets are for the B1, B2, so the elementary intermediates, and the red bracelets are for the C1 and C2s, which goes together with the card colors, right? So the student arrives or the participant arrives, and he or she will level themselves. So I'll say, okay, so which bracelet do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be
So
like,
they tell you
ooh,
what
yeah,
level they
that's super important. Even if like they are my student and they're like an intermediate student,
mm-hmm.
sometimes they won't feel confident enough to
Okay.
even put that bracelet
Uh-huh.
on
Right,
for
right.
whatever insecurity they might have, which is super common to have
Mm-hmm.
in live
It is.
conversation. So I always let the student or the participant level him or herself so that
Mm-hmm.
they feel comfortable with who they are going to be in that
Mm-hmm.
place, and then they'll feel themselves out, they'll feel the situation out, they'll feel out the dynamics that we have. And as they get more confident, they see that it's not a fucking, it's not rocket science, not something super difficult, not something super crazy or intense. They'll, relax, and then they'll be like, oh, I can definitely do this. And then they'll
Yeah.
switch to maybe an elementary student who has chosen a
Uh-huh.
white, beginner
Right.
wristband. Will be like, oh no, yeah, I'm definitely elementary. I'll get my little
Uh-huh.
yellow bracelet next time, and their confidence starts to be gouged and a little bit more engaged and a little bit more mm, observable
Mm-hmm.
by them.
Yeah.
For
And it
sure.
sounds fun because it sounds more I don't know. I feel like the colors, the color
Mm-hmm.
coding, it feels more how can I say? Not abstract. The opposite of abstract. Something
Concrete,
more tangible. I think some
tangible.
yeah, that they can see,
Uh huh.
right? and that they can see that they're improving and or how much they have to improve, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
also the dynamic is made like that so that they can also see the levels of the other participants and they can
Yeah.
choose what their challenge of
Mhm.
communication, what challenge of communication that they want to have. Do they want to talk to a more advanced person that speaks faster, that speaks more um,
Mhm.
fluently? And if they're beginner students, that's going to be a little bit challenging for their comprehension,
Mhm.
as well as it's going to be also challenging for the advanced student. Find other strategies and ways to talk
Yeah.
and communicate,
Mhm.
in a simpler way or so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
So it does offer the opportunity to have different types of dynamics and also gives the student or the participant the capacity to decide, to kind of
Mhm.
take the reins of his experience to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So
And
that's
how
one thing. Sorry.
uh-huh. No, I was gonna ask you how many students you have now. They're coming to
So
talk.
so very few, very few. I think maybe like three are more common. One is super assiduous, like goes almost every
Okay.
time, but it's on and off thing.
Right.
Like I said, if they don't have the social circle, they don't have the good habits. They're also developing that good habit by going, and it's not
Mhm.
easy to develop a good habit.
No,
you know,
not at
a
all.
new habit, regardless. And so I just need to keep doing it. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping the
Because one
flow.
day, right, they have that in their mind, and one day they will decide, right? They will be like, "No, okay, I know that Miguel always holds that, right, the event. One day I will go, right? But if for some reason you stop, right, then
They don't even have that
yeah,
opportunity.
because
And
the
I
beginning
can't,
is always hard, right?
absolutely, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
helping students develop those habits, I think, is within my capacity of doing what I can do. So
Mm-hmm.
like I can't tell the student, look, get a social circle,
Yeah.
if he has no idea even where to start. And
Right.
if I have that ambition of giving them that structure, that space for conversation, I'm definitely going to do it. Like I said,
Yeah.
we can only do what we can do, and then students need
Mm-hmm.
to do what they can do.
They can see that they can do that, right? It's more less challenging for them.
Yeah, it's something that's available for them.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And once it's available, you
Right.
know,
They just have
it's
to
always an
decide.
option. Yeah, they just have to decide to go. And
Yeah.
every time I'm going to be sending a message
Mhm.
about what the theme is, what the questions are going to be about, who's going, any new thing that I'm doing for
Mhm.
that type of event in itself.
Yeah.
But in general, I feel that is just a kind of of part of changing or affecting the behavior of students, because like we were talking about uncoachable students, right?
Mhm.
Like they're students that have already bad habits in general, like that one that you talked about who didn't accept feedback. That's
Mhm.
probably a bad habit that person has in general, not just in the classroom. But if it's
Yeah.
just in the classroom, they should also see
Problem.
why, you know
Yeah.
um, and you have those type of students and you have students with challenges. And I feel that developing new skills, developing new habits of communication, there is some of that we teachers can do, like building communities, making little events, conversation outings, and things like that. But once we do that, then it's really up to the student. You know what I mean? Once we do what we can do, it's really up to the student. And
Yeah.
that is a challenge. So I guess if we're gonna close right now, I guess I would close with that. There are coachable and challenged students. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
say challenging. They're just challenged, time
Mhm.
wise, habit wise, socially, they don't have anybody in their social circle that they can talk to in English. So they really can't
Yeah.
interact, can't develop their speaking very much, don't have any friends abroad and things like that, you know. So what can I do about that? That's what I think. What
Mm-hmm.
does the student need to do about that? Then that's his part.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you need to give the students, right, what they're gonna work with, because they're not gonna look for it, right? You
Well,
have
yeah,
to
I mean,
give
very few of them are going to look for it. Yeah.
very few, very
Yeah.
few. Right? Uh-huh. Yeah, like because usually they come to us because not because they're motivated, right? It's
Yeah.
like I feel like I always compare English classes to physical activities, right? Like you don't do it, you don't take classes because you want to. Just only few of them, right?
Yeah.
Do that. They usually come to us because they have to, right?
Yeah.
So they're not actually motivated. So
Yeah.
and I remember like in the beginning when I started teaching, I remember like telling them, "Hey guys, so I don't know. Here's a list of texts that you guys can read. You know, choose one and work on that during the week." They're not gonna choose the text. So you have to give. Hey, nowadays I already know, right? Even if it's not the perfect fit for them, I
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're reading this, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're gonna send it to me, I don't know, an audio reading it by tomorrow, right? You have to tell them what to do.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. I feel that makes things. Oh, absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, yeah. Like they don't even choose what they want to like read or listen or work on if you give them a list, right? They
Yes.
don't even have that motivation, right? To choose something. You have to give it to them, right? What they have to do until it becomes a habit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Until like so that's why like the beginning, I always tell them the beginning is the hardest, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're not gonna want to
Absolutely.
come to class. You're going to like even if you miss some classes, in the beginning, hey, just keep coming. Talk to me like 10 minutes. Even if you're gonna talk to me for 10 minutes, just come, until it becomes a habit and you start like missing English every week.
Yeah.
If you miss like speaking for some reason, you're gonna miss that, right? Oh, I miss speaking English for some reason, and then yeah.
Yeah. For sure. No, I agree. Making that relationship definitely needs constancy and consistency.
Yeah,
So, like everything, if you don't like it, just keep showing up. If it's something you need,
hmm
it's gonna grow on you. It's gonna become something that you're gonna see improvements incrementally as
yeah.
long as you don't stop.
And I always tell my students, hey, maybe I'm not the best teacher for you. Maybe my classes are not the best for you. There's so many other teachers out there. So just don't stop, like you told me before we started, right? Just don't stop,
Yeah.
until you find, keep looking for the perfect, like not the perfect, but like one professor that they might not be the best teacher, but if it's a teacher that you have like a connection with them, that's what matters because that way you're going to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like us as teachers, we have to be aware of that sometimes we have to tell them, hey, and identify, I'm not the best teacher for you, or maybe like their schedule and your schedule is not working, so hey, I have this other friend, Miguel, he's also a teacher, and I think he's maybe the way he teaches is better, and maybe he has more time available for you, right? And the time slot that you need, and those kind of things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's the issue. And I think that's all we can do really, just communicate with them what we think is good for them and help them go in that direction. And
hmm
after that, it's really about them taking the steps. Absolutely.
yeah, Miguel.
Well, Vivian, for today, that's it. I
Yeah.
loved the conversation. We were only able to cover the uncoachable students, challenging students, talked a little bit about some cases and about the things that we do to give the students the capacity or the options that we can doing what we can to help them get over the challenges that they have. So I guess in the next one, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the warning signs, about uncoachable students. What are some students that are not fit for your teaching style, which does vary from teacher to teacher, like we just talked about. Sometimes maybe another teacher has, maybe he's not even better, he's just a different teaching style, or he uses a different methodology, or, something is different that might click with you and might, generate a little bit of a stronger bond, which also helps a lot in the teaching
Yeah,
student
for sure.
and learning process.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Uh, Thank you so much, guys,
I
for
think
staying here with us. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And if you guys are looking for a teacher, Vivian, let them know where they can find you.
On Instagram at Teacher Vivian Morimoto. You can find me there. Message me if you'd like to join the group conversation classes. Hmm.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. Big hug, big hugs, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments if you'd like. And that's the game. See you guys next one. Big hug. Bye,
See
Vivian.
ya. Bye, guys.